From access stacks to toy Thember, yeah, we break through. Unbox the fire, showcase the find. Collectors worldwide, all one of a kind. ToyLeet, we set the pace. Elite with the heat in the plastic race.
All right, ToyLeet Nation, welcome back. This is Mr. Wonderful running solo, and I've got to own up on something right now, right up front. This one humbled me. I went into Wonderfest, my namesake event, mind you, feeling confident. Like this is the prediction redemption tour. I failed in the past, but this time I was going to nail it. I had screenshots, theories, even color-coded silhouettes, and then, and only then, Savage Crucible, they hit us with a haymaker. So let's share some screenshots here, you know. But let's be honest. While I got cooked, it wasn't completely. I did manage to sniff out some of the serpent energy that ended up being the background or backbone of Wave 4. So yeah, let's just call this a moral victory, I guess. Tonight, we'll be diving headfirst into everything revealed from Savage Crucible Wave 4. The new faction, the updated sculpts, the incredible figure design, and where this wave sits in the evolving lore of the Crucible. So grab a snack, sit back, be wonderful, and let's relive Wonderfest Shanghai, the show that proved even the boldest ToyLeet predictions aren't safe from the savages. So up first, we've got, well, let's look a little bit into this, right? Going back to the last stream, where we covered the preview, the infamous silhouettes, what was living in the shadows, right? It caused a ton of excitement, at least here for me and Ed and plenty of other people that are a bit savage. When we went from thinking, were we getting maybe, you know, a minion of the abyss and Sharkanoid, to maybe a lesser figure like, you know, Tragos, the hype was getting real. We hyped up quite a bit, thought really cool things were coming, and the confidence, miles high. But what we actually got was a full Serpent takeover. So being fair and honest, we were circling the right species. You know, we saw some proof of concept artwork from, you know, Savage that they had posted previously, around Commander of Pythonia, some Serpent hybrid sketches, you know, that we had seen earlier. And my instincts were firing. But everything else, we shot for the fences, but we missed the planet. You know, one key item for me was the color outlines around the silhouettes. Thought it had to do with maybe the faction they're a part of, maybe what was to come, all sorts of theories we chatted about in the chat and the live stream. Totally irrelevant based on what I came to. The conclusion I came to is completely irrelevant. You know, also one of the things that both myself and the entire live audience agreed on was that the three images were not including the first Zeta shadow. It turns out we were wrong about that too. So lessons learned, takeaway from this: never underestimate Savage Crucible's ability to play 4D chess with our expectations. So that said, the beauty of this wave is that even though predictions we had, and they may have been missed, the payoff was still worth it, in my opinion. The final reveals definitely blew the doors off of what we thought Crucible World could and should look like. So let's dive in a little bit deeper and take a look at some of the reveals. First up, we have the Serpent Warriors. Let's take a look at this in a little bit larger view so you guys can see it in full. But basically, this one is spread across the entire Wave 4 reveal, with the exception of the Frazetta figure. But Serpent Warriors, right? That is what we thought maybe included. This one specifically, you know, is one where we actually landed somewhat near the reality of the release. Right out of the gate, you can see the Savage built these using a mix of existing parts and some additional fresh tooling. You know, the Wave 1 Como armor set the influence here, or set, armor set but can be seen here in the influence. It's clear. It's not just simply a repaint. They've the body, the buck, chest, they all look to be brand new sculpts, giving the serpents a much more unique look than the Lemurians that we've seen in Wave 1. You can also see here that there are 3 alternative heads across the display, and they all tell kind of a unique story and style. Some have more of humanoid features, as you can see to the back, like corner. Others lean full-on reptilian, which gives customization flexibility right and straight out of the box. I believe collectors are going to love this. Because it turns a single release figure into a full faction building opportunity. You'll notice that you've got a few different more generic heads and more of a specific captive head. One of the things I want to point out is I do not believe this is using the standard Lemurian buck. I believe this is actually using a new tool buck because of the layered scales you can see across the figure. There's a couple different things across the chest area, like the armor plates, that deep burnt tone across the body adds to it, and it makes this figure its own unique creature. In my opinion, this is kind of a world building figure that Savage, the Savages come known for, and it really sets them apart. I don't believe they kind of just release a figure or a character. In this case, they released an entire species in this wave, and it aligns with what they've done in Wave 1 and Wave 2, and what they have for Wave 3 coming. So I'm really excited about this. I think this is a really cool figure. You can see it from the front and the back. You can see the uniqueness to the body, the buck. On the back picture, you can see the spine area and how that looks uniquely different than what we've seen previously. Up next, let's dive into what some might consider the showstopper. For those that aren't collecting the entire Savage Crucible series, but they're focusing on just the Frazetta artwork, this is a good place to pick up, because you have Kublana, which I do want to give credit. While the ToyLeet may have hit on this one, or missed on this one, Brian, Endless Fables, did share in the chat that he believed it was going to be Kublana as one of the releases, just based on the silhouette and other things. This figure is everything Savage Crucible does right. They're leveraging the Wave 2 buck from the looks of it. Same muscular build, similar, or I guess consistent approach to the accessories that we've seen in the past, and the storytelling that they bring in plastic to the Frank Frazetta artwork is amazing. But I'll admit it, I completely missed on this silhouette. While Brian might have hit it, I did not. I thought I saw a bow and arrow. Turns out I just saw a head on a spike. So yeah, maybe not my sharpest call, but seeing this in person or even through photos, it's just stunning. He's clearly built off the heroic buck from Wave 2, and it still holds up perfectly. Proportions are powerful, but not bulky. The posing range looks excellent, and these armor accents scream hand-sculpted detail. The shield positioning is clean. It tucks across the arm so naturally. It's not floating awkwardly or being held by the hand in the middle in a weird, way that you see in some figure lines like Marvel Legends. Some fantasy figures don't necessarily handle it this way, or they come up with alternative parts to use to make it more natural. But here, I also want to call out the extra heads. They have 2 helmets, at least 1 extra head. There might be a second helmet that has a head built into it, but this will be great for customizers, as it gives some reusability across other figures that I think folks will be extremely excited to have access to. This is a centerpiece figure, right? It's one of the Bridges the Grounded kind of fantasy world with more realism from the artwork of Frazetta, from a historical time that once was, and it ties directly into the other worldly tone of Wave 4 figures at the same time. So he looks like he belongs in the same world as the rest of the Crucible figures, and the new serpents that he brings along with him. Up next, we've got, and I just want to take a step back real quick. This right here, by far my favorite this right here from Wave 4 is like, one that I really enjoy. I think they did an awesome job with this figure. So, let's pull that back up on the full screen here. We said that they, had serpents. We thought maybe it was a small faction. Nope, it's full rollout. No Savage. They went full army builder on this one. What we're looking at appears to be either 3 or 4 serpent variations, each one with distinct armor and expression. You have one with armor, one without in this buck, but you can use these heads differently. They all share that same buck that we got from the Golden Serpent, but the armor is different. First time in the line, I believe. Some additional accessory weapons that are first time in the line from what I'm aware of. And I believe each one of these kind of gives its own identity. One of the things I want to call out here is if you look closely, there's 2 alternative heads resting at the base in this image for the one on the left. You'll notice you have the Medusa head on him, and then you have the heads on the base. One, has a closed mouth with the tongue sticking out of it, and the other one's just a closed mouth with nothing. The one with the tongue sticking out of it has kind of like a rigid, mohawk, scaling and stuff. It's interesting to me because what I notice is in the middle picture on the screen, you can see that same or similar head with its tongue out and the jaw wide open to bite in on something. What's interesting to me on that is that either you're getting a 4th head for this figure or you're getting an articulated jaw set. I lean to believe that it's probably an articulated jaw set or a hinge jaw system, but either way, if it's an extra head and whatnot, it's a huge win for articulation and posing. So action figure photography is going to have a blast with this one. And going back to the Medusa head, he's kind of like a leader with that armor and, the unique, almost like mace and ball there where he can kind of crack at his minions to do what he needs. But one of the things he does, he kind of commands presence in that look. Imagine how he's going to look on this shelf with a bunch of the ones in the middle picture standing around him, kind of as his serpent foot soldiers, as I like to refer to them. The one thing that stands out to me most here is the paint apps. They're next level. I've seen a ton of great customs on the Lemurians where they did different paint, applications, whether it be dry brush or full on, repaints, that I'm extremely impressed by. But what I see here is what Nikki and the team did is amazing. This red and black coloring together and pairing with the armor and this figure is, it's extremely, appealing. So, it definitely simulates real or what I would expect, one of these things to look like in real life. So I'm looking forward to getting this in hands and feeling it. But, you can definitely see this as a, faction builder's dream wave with these 2 figures and some of the other ones. But these specifically, you could, build out an entire Serpent, group with this. Next up and last, we have the Dune Reaper. This figure kind of feels like it's the glue of the wave. I say that because it kind of makes me think of the slate figures that we've seen in Wave 1 from Savage Crucible, and even what they've brought in from what'll be in Wave 3. It's a core troop type. It's just like the slates, you have the ability where it's fairly basic, but it's, perfect for army building, customization. It's got a neutral tone, so you should be able to paint over it and do some really cool things with it. Again, using that same serpent mold buck that we have and texturing with the scales all throughout it. It's essentially a blank canvas for customizers, in my opinion. So I'm very interested to see what this one comes with and hear more about this, because I think this is a great figure in and of itself, but I can see a ton of alternative usage by people in the customizing community, but also maybe even Savage Crucible releasing some alternative variants of this one in the future, similar to what we saw with the Lemurians. Definitely opened up the world here for themselves. But in my eyes, you can picture this figure being entire squads roaming the wastes of the Crucible world as we know it. It's kind of the type of creature in this look and feel that would thrive where nothing else does. I think this is a gold mine for customizers. I think it gives everybody, the ability for, full repaints, dry brushing, or, maybe even just, head swapping from another figure. But it's definitely one that you can turn one mold into an entire race and whatnot of figures. Very exciting. This figure though, to me, it's a sleeper. I don't feel like, I feel like Savage did a really good job with this one. and they didn't treat it just like it's a filler figure. I feel like they gave it character through simplicity, right? You know, it's something they do very good with. It kind of feels essential to the line, the lore, and not just padding for the wave to hit the fourth figure on that. So yeah, no, I'm very excited for this. I think this figure is going to be a really cool one to have, and as a result, I'm hyped up about this one. I will definitely be getting multiples of this for sure. So that kind of takes us into it, right? You know, you've seen all of them. That said, what's your verdict on Wave 4? For me, this wave, you know, it shows what Crucible has found its stride. You know, we saw Wave 1, we saw Wave 2, we've got them in hand. We've seen pictures of Wave 3, we've seen previews of it at cons. But this is the first wave outside of the Kickstarter that Savage and Harbinger Studios has put forth. So I'm very excited for this. I think it's a really cool direction for them. It opens up a new species and really expands the lore, right? And you know, it's, you know, we've seen one-offs. We've seen the Elric, we've seen the Death Dealer, we've seen a couple of the individual releases that we've seen from them regarding the Lemurians and whatnot. What I will say here is that what we have in front of us is the first wave since that Kickstarter, and I think it's extremely exciting because it's no longer about, you know, oh, wait for my Kickstarter, here this comes, but we're now seeing what's coming on beyond that initial concept and idea from Savage. And we, for so long, for 2 years, have been, you know, maybe almost 3 years now, have been sitting here with the Kickstarter and growing waves that we've received, and variants of those types of figures being explored. But now we're seeing what's coming, you know, what's possible, I guess. So I guess that's it, right? It's no longer about just what's next, but it's what's possible. And I think this is really eye-opening to what we get to see in the future. So, you know, great job, Harbinger Studios, Savage Crucible. I think this is awesome. You know, we got new bucks, we got new faction, we got crossover icons from the Frazetta line, and then we have the visual consistency that pulls everything into this world of savagery. The serpents, you know, the Dune Reaper specifically. Heck, we even saw some additional photos from Elric and Death Dealer. Every piece feels like, you know, a chapter of the much bigger story of Savage Crucible. So while we don't have releases or prices, Savage did recently tease that they'll be going live soon to break it all down for us, and you can be sure that I'll be there watching and listening, making notes and taking notes to bring back to you guys. So make sure you're subscribed to this channel. Make sure you have those notifications on, and drop a comment, maybe give us a share. And most importantly, you know, stay wonderful.
It's the ToyLeet crew, from X stacks to toy members, yeah, we break through. Unbox the fire, showcase the find, collectors worldwide, all one of a kind.